What if I told you that the daughter Doug Christie raised for over 2 decades might actually belong to his own NBA teammate? Yeah, you heard that right. Not a stranger, not a random affair. Chris Webber. And it all goes back to one secret night Jackie Christie never wanted anyone to find out about. Until now. Receipts. Hidden hotel footage. Blurry security cam shots. All of it buried. Until Doug found a folder tucked away behind a stack of Basketball Wives reunion scripts. Now he's flipping out, smashing mirrors, canceling appearances, and calling Jackie the biggest traitor in basketball history. And the internet? They're calling this the hashtag #WebberBaby scandal, and let's just say, no one's holding back. How did Jackie pull this off for so long? How did Chris Webber manage to smile in Doug's face for 20 years while hiding this nuclear secret? And, most importantly, is Chantel even ready to find out who her real dad is? Buckle up, because what we're about to expose will shake the very foundation of NBA brotherhood, family ties, and reality TV royalty. This isn't just drama. This is personal. What starts as whispers turns into war. And what was once a picture-perfect basketball marriage just exploded into one of the most embarrassing betrayals the NBA has ever seen. Because behind closed doors, Jackie Christie, yes, that Jackie, queen of chaos, queen of basketball wives, apparently had a private moment with none other than Chris Webber, Doug Christie's best friend and former Kings teammate. Now, let's rewind for a second. For years, people joked that Jackie was a little too possessive, a little too extra. But nobody thought she was out here double dribbling with Doug's own teammate. Not until now. So how did it all unravel? Let's talk about that night. The night Doug never saw coming. It started like any other memory, buried in the back of an old shoebox. Doug was organizing some old fan mail and NBA memorabilia when he found a random envelope, stuffed between an old playbook and a signed jersey. No label, no name, just a faded hotel receipt from Chicago, dated nearly 20 years ago. Now here's where it gets weird. Jackie had always said she was in Atlanta that weekend for a women's business seminar. Doug remembered because he was the one who dropped her off at the airport. But this receipt said otherwise. Not only was Jackie not in Atlanta, she had stayed at the Four Seasons Chicago in a penthouse suite. And the room had 2 guests registered. Doug's not stupid. He's been in the NBA long enough to know when something smells off. And this was straight up rotten. He logged into his old NBA travel database. Yes, retired players still get access to certain league tools, and started pulling records, player appearances, alumni events, charity weekends. And boom. The second name tied to that Chicago date? Chris Webber. Let that sink in for a minute. The same Chris who used to call Doug brother. The same Chris who helped Jackie move furniture once while Doug was overseas on a tour. The same Chris who once babysat Chantel while Jackie was stuck in traffic. That Chris. Doug didn't explode. Not yet. First, he needed proof. So, he did what any man on the verge of a nervous breakdown would do. He started digging. He called the hotel. Of course, they denied everything. But Doug wasn't done. He had a friend in private security pull an archived surveillance snapshot from the hotel's valet cam. And guess what showed up? A blurry photo, time-stamped clear as day, of Chris Webber and Jackie Christie stepping out of the elevator together. Both dressed in black. 11:46 p.m. Cue the slow-motion heartbreak. Now here's the messed up part. Doug didn't confront Jackie right away. He couldn't. He was still trying to convince himself that maybe, just maybe, there was a reasonable explanation. But there wasn't. Instead, he went silent. For 2 days. He barely spoke. Jackie noticed, obviously, but she assumed it was just work stress. Until one night, Doug finally broke. They were sitting at the dinner table, Doug, Jackie, and Chantel. Jackie was bragging about some upcoming charity event, trying to look like everything was normal. But Doug couldn't hold it in anymore. He slammed the folder on the table. "What's this, Jackie?" Jackie blinked. "What's what?" "This hotel receipt. This photo. You were in Chicago. With Chris. You told me you were in Atlanta." Silence. Jackie's face drained of color, like someone pulled the plug on her soul. Chantel looked up, confused. "Mom, But Jackie didn't answer. She just got up and walked out of the room. Doug followed her into the hallway, heart pounding, fists clenched. "Don't walk away from this, Jackie. What happened that night?" And Jackie, who had always been so loud, so unbothered, so proud, whispered the one sentence that set the internet on fire. "It was just one night, Doug." It didn't mean anything. The walls may as well have cracked open. Doug screamed, not because of the cheating, not because it was Chris, but because that one night changed everything. And then, just as he was about to storm out, Jackie said something even worse. "Doug, there's something else I need to tell you." The air went still. Doug turned around slowly, jaw clenched. "Don't."
"You better not say it." But she said it anyway.
"That same year, I wasn't sure Chantel was yours."
Boom.
Doug felt his stomach twist. Chantel, his baby girl, his pride, his legacy, suddenly became a question mark. Jackie tried to backpedal. "I didn't want to hurt you, Doug. I've carried this for years." I didn't know how to tell you, but it was too late." Doug locked himself in the study and spent the entire night sobbing into his hands, replaying every moment. The bedtime stories, the school drop-offs, the birthdays, the basketball games. All of it possibly based on a lie. By morning, he made a decision. If Jackie wouldn't give him answers, then science would. He ordered a DNA test, discreet, fast-tracked, and delivered in under 48 hours. The result? 0% parental match. Doug's hands shook as he held the paper. He didn't need a second test. He didn't need an explanation. He knew. Chris Webber was Chantel's real father. Now, let's pause here, because while the truth was already earth-shattering, what happened next was pure chaos. Doug didn't quietly grieve. Oh no. He went ballistic. He trashed their bedroom, smashed framed photos, threw Jackie's designer heels out the window, canceled all his upcoming public appearances, even fired off a cryptic tweet that fans still haven't decoded. "Don't call everyone bro. Some snakes speak fluent family." And then Doug called a meeting with his lawyer. Because what Jackie did wasn't just betrayal. It was paternity fraud. And Doug wanted to make sure the world knew. But just as he was preparing to go public, something else dropped into his lap. A second envelope, hidden behind Jackie's old makeup box in the bathroom closet. This one wasn't from Doug. It was from Jackie. Labeled, "For my eyes only." Inside, a letter, a confession, and a name. Doug's fingers trembled as he unfolded the note. His eyes skimmed the first line. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a confession. It was a story, a timeline, a full breakdown of Jackie's one night. That apparently wasn't just a one-night anything. It started like this. "Doug, if you're reading this, then I know I've been caught. I didn't plan to lie to you forever. I just didn't know how to undo the damage." She went on to describe that weekend in Chicago with Chris Webber, and how it wasn't some spur-of-the-moment fling. They had been texting for weeks before, flirting, laughing, calling it harmless nostalgia. Harmless. Doug's blood boiled. Harmless is forgetting a birthday. This was betrayal, with a jersey number. Jackie wrote, "Chris was going through a rough patch. I was lonely. You were always traveling. We just connected. But it was only that night, I swear." But Doug didn't believe a word. Not anymore. Because in that same letter, Jackie accidentally included a printout of an old email, a forwarded message from Chris Webber, dated 2 weeks after that infamous night. "I still think about you. I still think about what we started." What we started? So much for one night, huh? Doug snapped again. He called his lawyer and demanded they add intentional deception and emotional damages to the paternity fraud lawsuit. He then fired off another tweet. "Never trust a teammate who offers to babysit. That ain't brotherhood. That's betrayal in Jordan's." But it didn't stop there. Because now Doug had a mission. And that mission was simple. Find out exactly how long Jackie and Chris had been fooling him. So what did he do? He hired a private investigator. Yep, a full-blown, trench coat-wearing, telescope through the window-level P.I. And what the investigator dug up. That's when the whole internet gasped. Apparently, Jackie and Chris had been meeting in secret every few months over the past 2 decades. Not always romantic. Sometimes just lunches. But guess what? A leaked voice memo from a former assistant claimed Jackie used to refer to those meetups as therapy with my real one. My real one. Let's talk about that quote for a second. Because for someone who spent her life calling Doug her king, that hit different. Doug? He was fuming. He didn't just feel cheated. He felt erased. And here's where the public reaction started blowing up. Social media caught fire with hashtags like #JackieExposed, #WeberBaby, #DougDeservesBetter, #PaternityPlayoffs. One fan even posted an AI-generated image of Chris Webber holding a baby wrapped in a Kings jersey with the caption, "Congrats bro, 18 years late. But hey, at least the kids got handles." The memes were merciless. Meanwhile, Jackie was trying to save face. She put out a teary 3-minute Instagram reel, filmed in soft lighting, full makeup, and her best, "I'm still the victim" voice. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she sniffled. "Sometimes people make mistakes when they feel unloved. I'm only human." The comment section? It was a massacre. You weren't unloved. You were unfaithful. How do you cheat and keep the baby a secret? You just made Doug Christie the most sympathetic man in reality TV history. Girl, even Future thinks you're toxic. Even former castmates from Basketball Wives started weighing in. One anonymous insider allegedly told a gossip blogger, "We always knew Jackie had secrets. We just didn't know Doug was one of them." Now, let's switch gears. Because while Jackie was on social media damage control, Doug was doing something far more painful. He was trying to figure out what to say to Chantel. Remember, Chantel had grown up thinking Doug was her father, her protector, her rock. She had his last name. She had his smile. She had his back. So, how do you tell someone their entire life was built on a lie? Doug decided to sit her down and tell her himself. He placed the DNA report on the table. He took a deep breath, and then said the words no parent, real or not, ever wants to say. "Baby, I love you, but biologically, I'm not your father." Chantel froze. Her hands trembled. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but no sound came out. Doug explained everything: the hotel receipt, the surveillance photo, the letter, the DNA test. And then he dropped the final bomb. "Your real father is Chris Webber." Silence. Then came the sobbing. Not just tears, gut-wrenching, body-shaking sobs. Chantel screamed, "You knew? You both knew." Doug shook his head. "I just found out, but the damage was done." She ran out of the room, and Jackie, hearing the chaos, tried to step in, tried to calm her down. Big mistake. Chantel shoved her back and shouted, "You don't get to speak. You don't get to call yourself my mother today." It was pure heartbreak. And, of course, someone leaked the audio. Because of course. Now the world didn't just hear about Jackie's betrayal. They heard the pain in Chantel's voice, the tremble in Doug's, and the silence, the cold, guilty silence from Jackie. Meanwhile, let's not forget Chris Webber. Because while the world was dragging Jackie and sobbing with Doug, Chris was silent. No statement. No denial. No apology. Nothing. Until a TMZ cameraman caught him outside a steakhouse in Miami. The paparazzi shouted, "Chris, is Chantel your daughter?" Chris just looked down, shook his head, and muttered, "No comment. No comment." That's all we get? After 20 years of deception, that silence did more damage than any tweet ever could. NBA fans started flooding his old highlights with snake emojis. His Hall of Fame mentions turned into battlegrounds. Even one former teammate posted, "We shared a locker room, but I never thought you'd share Doug's wife." The shade, the savagery, the scandal. And still, Jackie tried to spin it. She scheduled an exclusive sit-down with a daytime talk show where she planned to tell her side. But before the episode could even air, clips leaked. And in one preview, she says, "In my heart, Doug will always be Chantel's dad. But biologically, things happen. Things happen. Boss." This woman cheated with her husband's best friend, lied about it for 20 years, raised the child of another man, and now she's calling it things happen? This ain't a spilled drink, Jackie. This is generational betrayal. And as public pressure builds, sources say Doug has officially filed for full separation, paternity fraud, and is even exploring civil damages for emotional trauma. But guess what? It's about to get even worse. Because as we enter part 3, Jackie's house of lies starts to collapse from the inside out. And another secret, involving Chantel's birth certificate, is about to leak. Just when you thought Jackie Christie couldn't possibly sink any lower, the universe said, "Hold my mimosa," because the lie wasn't over. Turns out Jackie didn't just cheat. She didn't just hide a secret child. She didn't just lie to Doug and Chantel for over 2 decades. No, she also tampered with Chantel's birth certificate.
Yep.
According to explosive new findings leaked by an anonymous tipster, who we're told used to work on the Basketball Wives set, Jackie intentionally listed Doug Christie as the biological father on Chantel's original birth certificate, knowing full well he wasn't.
Why?
Simple. Money, fame, and image. In an audio message posted by gossip account Tea on the Couch, the insider says Jackie used to joke that being a Christie baby meant legacy and contracts. She wasn't trying to be anyone's baby mama. She was building a brand boss. This woman turned Doug into a financial prop. She weaponized fatherhood like a designer handbag and wore it for 20 years, all while smiling on red carpets. Let's rewind for a second. The birth certificate, which Doug's legal team demanded as part of their paternity fraud lawsuit, showed Doug listed under father in black ink. No amendments, no asterisks, no disclaimers. But here's the kicker. The original file had 2 digital revisions, both dated 2 months after Chantel's birth. And one of those revisions came from a logged IP address traced back to Jackie's former publicist's office, which means